Welcome to the Coon Hunting University podcast, where we'll discuss all things coon hounds, from competition hunting to pleasure hunting with family and friends. I'm your host, Alan Bridges, and we'll take an in-depth look at our hounds from the whelping box to the winter circle and all the stops in between. So grab your notebooks and your pencils because class is in session.
Coon Hunting University is presented by Extreme Dog Fuel. Feed it for life. Find out more at extremedogfuel.com. And Superior Hunting Lights. Superior, step up to the max. Use the 5% discount code CHU podcast at checkout on nighthunters.com. Out of all the big changes that we've seen at Coon Hunting University, here's a new one. It's Mr. Alan Bridges is going to be recording and doing interviews for Coon Hunting University. He's part of the team. We're happy to have him. Alan's well-versed in podcasts. He's been on Coon Hunting University podcast, and he's been on Houndsman XP. He was on been on a couple of other ones. I mean, you know, he's a popular guy, right, Alan? So, and people that have listened to any podcast, they've kind of heard you talk a little bit about yourself, but tell us a little bit more about yourself, and why did you want to start doing this?
My name's Alan Bridges, and I've been coon hunting since I was about 15. I'm 45 now, so I've been doing it about 30 years. I love to coon hunt. I love everything about the dogs. I love hunting the dogs, training the dogs, competing with the dogs. I breed dogs, and I've just enjoyed it so much. This is a way that I can maybe help give back and maybe shine a light on other breeders. I'm not probably going to go after the ones that win the world hunts or win the super stakes or stuff like that. I like the guys that have been doing it for a long time, that have been very successful at it in terms of creating dogs that do what they're designed to do and do it well. I've been fortunate to own some pretty good hounds. I may get a little criticism because I don't compete on a big stage very often, but I do have a career. It was my first love, and I'm a farmer, and I do love the hounds, but I've got other irons in the fire, so to speak. So you may not see me at the super stakes or at the world hunt, but I try to make a couple of big hunts a year. The thing that I like to try to do now is the Tournament of Champions. I got lucky enough to hunt one of the top 64 dogs in the country last year to get into that hunt, and I enjoyed it so much that I'm going to try to do it again, and got my fingers crossed that I'll be lucky enough to do that. But I'm more of a local kind of guy. There's a lot of good dogs in my area, and a lot of dogs that do compete on a big stage, and we're liable to go head to head on Wednesday night for bragging rights, but we don't get out and beat each other up on social media or anything like that, or hardly even tease, and it's just between us. I just wanted to showcase some of the down-to-earth people, the I guess the meat and potatoes part of it.
And that's great, really, it is. And I'm happy to have you here, and I think it's going to be awesome. And, you know, we're about to really release a lot of content to the listeners because, you know, you're doing interviews, I'm doing interviews, Jason Snellgrove's doing interviews. And so the difference in what you're doing and what Jason's doing is you're actually releasing under Coon Hunting University. So it's on Coon Hunting University. If Jason does, it's on Coon Hunting Collective.
No pressure, right?
Yeah, no pressure. I mean, but I think it's great, and I'm happy to have you on here. I really am.
Well, I'm glad to be part of the team. The first one that I did, I enjoyed it, and then I got to do another one, and then I enjoyed it, and I did yours and enjoyed it. Chris Powell asked me on the Houndsman XP one, you know, why do you think I called you to do a podcast? And my answer was because I got a big mouth and a lot to say. And that's still true. I just wanted to be able to maybe use this podcast as a way to showcase some everyday kind of coon hunters that do a good job. I know a lot of folks because I've been doing it a long time. And maybe their heyday was 1992 and people have kind of forgot about them, but they did a good job back when they were in their prime, and maybe, I hate to say over the hill because that I can start to see the top of it pretty close. I just wanted to make sure that there's more to what we do than just competition hunting, and there's more to it than what we do than just pleasure hunting. I love every aspect about it. So I kind of, part of my intro you'll hear is, we're going to talk about issues that affect us and our dogs from the whelping box to the winner's circle. So I kind of want to, go over a broad range of things. One of the first few things that we'll talk about on, when I'm doing some interviews, or I've got about 3 or 4 podcasts, and Tyler, this will be the first time you hear about this, that are some folks that have been inspirational to me and have been, some mentors to me, and a lot of people won't know who they are. Some folks will. The ones that are, especially in my, I don't want to say area, but more my region of the country, these people have done a lot for me, and I've learned a lot from them. And so there'll be, a little series, 3 or 4 that I'll do that'll kind of reflect on what those folks have given me, and it'd be an opportunity for me to, let them talk about, I don't want to say themselves, but their dogs and what they've accomplished, and I get to say on some of those how they taught me and how they helped me out to get to where I am today.
And that's awesome, man. I'm really happy that you get to do that. I really am. It means a lot to me that you're able to do that through this podcast. It really does. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm, I got to listen to this interview that you're about to do today, or that you've done, and it's being released today with Trevor Hack. And it's awesome. People are really going to enjoy it. I know they are.
I'm looking forward to it being released and see how people receive it. They may break out the shovels and the pitchforks and run me off, but I think this is something that I'm going to enjoy doing, and I'm glad you asked me to do it. That was the biggest reason that I got involved with it is you asked, and I said okay. Probably never would have just stepped out and done this on my own the way you did it. I'm probably not that guy. So kudos to you, because that was a pretty big undertaking, and you've gotten this podcast to where it has grown enough, and you've got enough listeners to where you feel like you are able to expand, and I'm proud and honored just to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, I really do, and I think the more the merrier, it's not about me, and I know that 100%, and that's one thing that I've stuck to this whole time on this podcast. It's not about me, it's about the guests, and it's truly about capturing all of that, and putting it somewhere for people to hear it. And that's really what I care about, and that's still what I care about. Yeah, it's done grown to be, bigger than I ever thought it would, but, and we have sponsors and everything now, but you have to have that to be able to keep the podcast sustainable at the level that it was, or the level that it is at. It costs us money to run this, and to go on trips to these hunts and to go to these people's houses. I'm not making a killing at my job. You can probably make way more than I do. You're a farmer. Uncle Sam might not think so, but the banker does, right?
Well, I saw this on Facebook the other day about farmers, and the hardest job that I'm gonna mess it up, but the hardest job that a farmer has is to convince the IRS that we didn't make anything, while at the same time convincing the banker that we did. Yeah. So, Alan, I know people are gonna love this. Without further ado, here's Mr. Alan Bridges and Mr. Trevor Hack. Y'all sit back and enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with special guest today, Trevor Hack, and we're going to be talking about his involvement with English Coon Hounds, and more specifically, Grand Night Champion 4, Heat Seekers Unleash the Kraken. So, Trevor, I'm glad you could be with us today, and you just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for having me on here. I sure appreciate it, and I don't turn down the opportunity to talk these dogs much. So I'm 32 years old. I work at a bank for about 10 years now. I'm married to my lovely wife, Jessica, and I have a 2-year-old son named Aiden. That's about it as far as my history goes. I got into coon hunting back when I was a kid. I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. How old were you when you started hunting?
I used to beg my grandpa to go when I was about 5 and 6, and he was really the only one in my family that coon hunted. So it kind of skipped a generation. My dad never really got real interested in it, so it's kind of skipped a generation. He started taking me pretty consistently when I was about 11. He took me some before that, but my grandpa was more of a hide hunter. He did dabble a little bit into the competitions, but he worked asphalt, and he stayed gone on the road all summer, and he would get laid off in the winter. So he would come back, and he really enjoyed hide hunting, and he paid for a lot of Christmases with coon furs. So it was usually pretty cold, So me being small, most of the time he didn't start taking me till I got a little bit older.
I didn't have that growing up. My granddad hunted some, but my dad didn't, and my granddad had long since stopped hunting before I ever came around. So my story's a little different than yours, but it's still great to learn how we all come to love this sport.
That's right.
So how long have you hunted English dogs, Trevor?
Well, like I said, my grandpa, that's all he ever hunted was English dogs. More specifically, he hunted most of the dogs out of the Wilcox line, Larry and Charlie Garris. Charlie Garris actually owned an outdoor shop just about 10 minutes from where my grandpa lives. That was there when my grandpa retired, and Charlie Garris was a retired school teacher. He opened up that outdoor shop there, and the older fellows would get together and play cards every afternoon, and they'd go coon hunting at night. So my grandpa always had English dogs out of that line. So I've been around English dogs for quite a while, but I actually got my first English dog, I think it was 2013. I bought an English dog out of Main Street Jack from a guy in Michigan named Joe Tracy. He was just a young started dog. I bought him, I believe he was around 10 months old, and that was my first English dog, and kind of stuck with that line to this day.
Well, that's cool. So I guess I should have asked you this to begin with, but where do you call home?
I live in Central Ohio, almost smack dab middle of the state. So I'm kind of about 30 minutes north of Columbus, about an hour and a half south of Cleveland. So I'm kind of right in the center of the action here in Ohio. It's pretty flat land.
Zoo in Georgia.
Yeah, we got pretty good coon population. The interesting thing about where I live is, though, you can go probably 45 minutes east of me, and you can be in some I call them mountains here. I'm sure others would disagree, but you can get into some pretty hilly stuff if you just go about 45 minutes east of me, or you can go 45 minutes west of me, and it's literally the flattest. It's literally flatter than anywhere in the country. 45 minutes west of me. It's so flat that it lays wet all the time just because there's nowhere for the water to go.
Wow. That's pretty flat. So Tell us a little bit about Kraken, and I've been accused over the years of hanging a $5 handle on a dog, but that his name's pretty unique. How did he come by that?
Well, I'd like to take a little bit of credit for his name, but that was more so my partner, Grant Whitmer. He came up with the name, pretty creatively, but he started carrying him to the woods when he was about 4 months old. He treated his first coon a few weeks after he started taking him. He was almost 5 months old when he treated his first wild coon at night. He hadn't even had a name yet at that time. And he thought, well, I got to get creative with this. I got to come up with something that's going to stick out, something that's going to stick to people when they hear it, So that's how he came up with Heat Seekers Unleash the Kraken.
Yep, nobody forgets that. I remember the first time I read that, I was like, that sounds about like something I would do. But
yeah.
No, So we're recording this on Sunday evening, right after the Grand American. He had a pretty good night last night, didn't he?
Yeah, you know, I'd seen he got a cast win. I'd be lying to you if I knew any of the details. I haven't actually spoke to Grant or the guy that was handling him, but the guy that was handling him has only hunted with him one time prior to this. Was at a Grand in the Grand 16 cast this summer in Richmond, Indiana. That was the only time he actually hunted with him. So for him to go and win a cast last night with little experience with him was pretty impressive. So I was glad to see that Mike got a cast win on him.
That is pretty impressive, especially I know the area of the state where a lot of these guys hunted, and it's been wet there. I deliver bulls all over South Carolina and North Carolina, and my goodness at the water that they've had there. And you know, they call it low country South Carolina for a reason. And I don't know if he drew up into the Piedmont or if he had to stay down there in the low country. But if he had to stay in the low country, he was swimming.
Yeah, I haven't actually spoke to him yet about where he hunted. I haven't been able to get him on the line or speak with him yet. But I know they're probably headed home now, even as we talk, because they got quite a drive ahead of them, headed back to up around Vermont is where Mike lives. So that's quite a journey to get to South Carolina to go to a coon hunt.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm about 150 miles, so I mean I just rode over there for the day on Saturday. I've hunted in that thing before, and I did it in 2002, and it was an AKC hunt. And let me tell you, I was swimming the whole night, and I swore if I ever got back to my truck, I would never, ever do it again. And so far, I've held true to my promise. All my friends give me a hard time about it. And I was like, guys, I'm allergic to water. I don't know if I'll melt or float, but it won't be good.
Right. Hey, I admire those guys. I admire those guys that make dogs in those conditions, you know, because you come here and you hunt around me and you're like, man, somebody told me to comment to me. They said, well, you ought to have a bunch of world champions with the kind of hunting you have around here. And I said, well, the problem is I can't take this hunting everywhere I go. I got to go hunt wherever, you know.
That's right. I mean, it's awesome to have that kind of terrain to hunt on and have that kind of game population there. You're one of the fortunate ones, except for maybe around, I don't know, January, February. It gets awfully cold there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've been lucky this winter so far. We've been able to pretty much hunt just about any night we want to, but it's definitely cooling off. Like I think tomorrow night it's supposed to get down to 7 degrees. So I believe I'll stay in the house where it's warm. I don't want to go chase those dollar coon.
Well, when we went up to the tournament in April, my buddy and I left on Wednesday night, and all I saw was pictures around Greencastle, Indiana. They had 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, and here we are in the middle of April, and I'm going, oh God, you know, I was dreading being up there, but it was cool. It was cool up there, but it wasn't bad. It was pretty good April weather, I thought, and the snow got out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it ended up turning out to be a pretty nice weekend to hunt, really.
Kraken, where did he come from? And if I'm not mistaken, you owned his sire, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, Kraken came from a litter out of Pennsylvania. Jeff Fish owned Kraken's mom, Poplar Run Ruthless, from around Pennsylvania there, and he had called and got a hold of me and wanted to breed to Main Street Blue, Kraken's dad, and I told him, yeah, absolutely. You know, it sounds like it's going to be a good cross, and so we got it all planned. And my wife was actually pregnant at the time with our son, and so it was kind of funny because I'm trying to line these two things up where they don't conflict, and I can be home, to meet this guy who's going to come 5-6 hours to come breed to my dog. So I thought, well, she was due on this date, and I thought, well, I think we're going to be all right. Well, she ended up going into labor a few days early, so we actually had to go to the hospital. We're sitting there at the hospital, and she started having contractions, and she's getting ready to start delivering our son, and my phone's going off, and it's Jeff Fish, and he's there at my house, and I totally forgot. And I have nobody there. So I got on the line. I called my grandpa real quick, who didn't live far from me. And I said, Grandpa, I said, I got a problem. I said, I got a guy in my driveway. I said, he's ready ready to breed this female. I said, is there any way you could go down there and help get this done? So my grandpa actually got in his truck and drove over there and met Jeff. So my son ended up being born a few hours later. So I'll never forget the night that cross was made. We'll just put it that way. Anyway, that's how.
Yeah, it sounded pretty eventful.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So I just knew something good was going to come out of that cross.
Hey, y'all. Tyler here from Coon Hunting University. I want to talk to you a little bit about Extreme Dog Fuel and what sets them apart. Superior nutrition at the lowest price possible. So they've been told the amount of vitamins and minerals they use in their feed's overkill, and that they could reduce cost by incorporating less expensive ingredients in their formula. But they believe the right mix of important ingredients makes a huge difference in your hound's skin, coat, performance, durability, health, and longevity. They promise they'll never change their product to lower the price or to compete with cheap commodity dog foods. All their ingredients are taken from the South Central United States. So go check them out, and you can find out more about Extreme Dog Fuel at extremedogfuel.com and find a retailer near you today. Extreme Dog Fuel, feed it for life.
I had a feeling. I thought, man, all this craziness surrounding this cross, surely something's gonna happen. One of these dogs is gonna turn out in this litter. So, a few months, a couple months goes by, and she ends up having the pups. And Jeff was trying to sell some of them, and Grant had caught Grant's eye. He had been looking for a pup out of blue. So he went and met with Jeff, and there was one pup out of that litter that Jeff would do some drags at 3 months old. And there was one pup that even after 2 hours, every time he would do a drag and he would take all the pups and put them away. There was one pup that just kept standing on that tree and would not. He said after 2-3 hours, this pup would still be out there treed. And it was incredible. I got a lot of videos of it. So he said, how much would it take me to get that pup? He said, and Jeff said, well, that's my pup. So Grant said, well, how about if I buy 4 of them from you? If I buy four of these pups, can I have that one? And he said, yeah. So that's how we ended up with Kraken. So he had to get 4 to get him, but it's turned out pretty good.
Well, one of those pups turned out to be a dog named Striker, and he was the tree champion, I think, at the Grand American this year. He won the treeing contest. Yeah,
he sure did. Yeah, he was he wasn't one of the ones Grant had initially bought either. That was a different one. But yeah, 3 out of the 4 that Grant actually bought have done some winning. The 4th one that he's been kind of sold a couple times. I had him at my house, but he had hip dysplasia when he was a pup. His hips didn't form right for some reason. It was kind of sorry to see him try to run around through the woods. He will tree a coon even to this day. He'll still get treed. It just takes him a lot longer. His hips didn't develop fully for whatever reason. But so Grant ended up coming out pretty good, getting all 4 of those pups off Jeff.
All right. So does Kraken operate like Blue did, or kind of compare and contrast their styles a little bit?
Yeah, I actually got Kraken from Grant when he was about 7 months old. Grant hunts near the Adirondack Mountains in New York, and they don't have a very good coon population there, and it's pretty rough. You've talked to anybody that lives around that area, they all say the same thing. They say we have 3 porcupines to 1 coon. They say we got 2 possums to 1 coon. So they have a lot more off game there for young dogs. And when Kraken started treeing consistently at 5 months old, I told Grant, I said, Grant, you need to get him up here where, we can get his focus more on coon instead of all this off game. When he was 7 months old, he actually brought him to me, and I started hunting him alongside Blue. They hunted. I would say he learned a lot from Blue those first 3 or 4 months that I hunted them together. They do hunt very, very similar. Kraken's a little more cold nose than Blue was. I would think Blue was more of a medium nosed dog. Kraken has kind of an old school nose. He can tree an old 3 or 4 hour old track, and he can really move it. Or you can drop him down the fence row edges, cornfields, bean fields, and he'll just pick them off down the edge. That line of dogs are more of an edge hunting style of dog, which for my country, we have a lot of crop fields. We have a lot of field edges. We have a lot of fence rows. So to have a dog that you can flip down a fence row, they just kind of kind of pick those coon off on the edges up eating. That's really the kind of dog that I really like to keep is one that can pick those coons up off the edges. And both Blue and Kraken, that's kind of their strong suit, is being able to tree those type of coon.
I got you. So you mentioned that Grant Whitmer was your partner, and I gotta say that when you just said he lived in the Adirondack Mountains in New York, it kind of threw me for a loop because his address says Utah.
Yeah.
Or I think it did say Utah.
I think it throws a lot of people off. But yeah, he does. He goes back and forth between the two places. I think his parents have a big farm, a big cattle farm in New York. So he goes back and forth. I think he helps his dad quite a bit with the cattle. Yeah, they do some bulls too. He goes back and forth between the two places.
Kraken is one of the winningest young English dogs that I'm aware of. If you could just name off some of his accomplishments, I know that he was one of 7 English dogs that made the final or the top 64 in the Tournament of Champions last spring. Kind of tell our listeners what he's done. I mean, he's a young dog and he's won a bunch.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it's been real fun. It's been real fun chasing him around and seeing him progress even as a puppy to, he still really is a young dog. He's only 2 still. He'll be 3 in April. But the first kind of big win we won around locally was the Ashland, Ohio spring blue tick hunt. It draws over 100 dogs, most years. It's a good time. It's about an hour north of me, and we were double cast winners there and got overall winner. And then we went on to win National Blue Tick Days this year in Milton, Indiana. Had a couple real good casts up there, both Friday and Saturday night. Chad Mccoy, he's a big man in the black and tan breed. I've always wanted to hunt with Chad because he does real well at Autumn Oaks. A lot of years he's been in the Grand 16, several times I believe. He was my guide up there on Friday night, and we had a great cast. We got a truck ticket last year in April, so that was exciting. So we'll be able to compete in the truck hunt in Mississippi here this spring. We did, as you said, made the top 64 to Tournament of Champions. That was really exciting hunt, and I thought the zones went well. I really thought UKC did a great job putting that hunt on there in Indiana, and I'm looking forward to trying to make that final again. And I know they expanded it this year too, to I believe 100 and I'm not sure the exact number of dogs, but they're taking over 100 dogs this year.
I think it's 96 now, unless they've changed it since the last time I read anything about it.
You could be right. You could be right. I knew they were expanding it some, but they added
another round.
I got you. Yeah. So hey, I love what they're doing. I love the changes that they're making, and trying to improve things. That's great. They're listening to the hunters, and you can't ask an organization to do any more, really. Kraken and I we got in the Grand 16 at Autumn Oaks this year. Yeah, I got in it with his dad, Main Street Blue, a couple years ago too, and that's just a fun hunt. I love Autumn Oaks. It's not that far from me. It's about 3 hours or so. It's not 10 hours. I understand people come from all over to go to Autumn Oaks. I respect those people that make that drive to go to a coon hunt. And then Kraken and I, we got in the top 16 of the Ohio State race in PKC. So that was kind of a goal that I'd had with him. We'll be able to compete in that top 16 here in the next year.
Well, good deal. I guess that my next question was going to be, what was your opinion of that hunt? I thought it was awesome. I mean, I thought it was well ran. As far as I could tell, everybody got along. I didn't hear a crossword all weekend. Obviously my cast didn't go the way I would have wanted it to go. My dog pulled a whoops on the first drop in the first 5 minutes. I mean, she looked awesome doing it, but when I got there was a really old raccoon with a white face and a slick tail sitting about 12 feet off the ground. All I could do was take a picture of it and carry it back to the truck with my buddy and said, "Hey man, have you ever seen $1,000 possum?" and laugh about it. But
right.
That's just the way. And I'd never seen her do that before. I mean, I'd hunted with her a bunch, but I'd never handled her until the Friday night of the region hunt. I thought she had as good a chance as 63 other dogs until about 6 minutes after we turned loose, and then I realized I didn't. But she's qualified again.
Excellent.
We're going. I don't know that I'm hunting her this year. I got another female qualified, but I loved that hunt. It was just so much fun. They rolled out all the stops.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it.
That's my opinion of it.
I agree. Yeah, it was a very, very professionally ran event, and I love what they were doing with the broadcasters there. Wanting to put it on YouTube, and wanting to draw interest from outside people. People that might not understand what all entail goes on in a coon hunt. They wanted to bring people in and interview people, and I really thought that was great.
Yes, our sport's not all that mainstream in terms of what you see on TV. I mean, they got Buckmasters and Duck Commander and all kinds of stuff for deer hunting and duck hunting and you name it, other kind of hunting. But the dog folks, we've kind of taken a back seat, and I really applaud UKC and several other organizations for trying to get our story out there. I think they're on the right track. Yeah,
absolutely. Totally agree. And any kind of positive attention to get people involved and to get people started, and, it's great. And I'm all about it. I'm all about it. I thought UKC with the event there, the venue that they chose, it was great. And I told people, I said, even though I didn't win, I had a similar situation just like you had. I ended up going out in the finals, the first round, just exactly like you said. we could have switched dogs and had the same outcome. But yeah, we flipped our dogs loose, and 2 dogs struck right off the lead. I mean, they were running, and they were legit. They were running a track, 15 feet in front of us where we cut loose. Only 2 of them. Mine hadn't opened, and the 4th dog hadn't opened. Well, they drove that track in there about 100 yards away from us, and they were treed in about 2 minutes. Now, mine never opened. He went right on past them, and then he struck. And I thought, well, good. We could tell that their dogs were in the ground. I could tell, they were only 150 yards from us. They were all muffled and shutting up real bad. Next thing you know, I hear mine coming back toward him. And I hear him go in there. Now, one strong suit about Kraken is he's very independent, and he has been from a time he was just 8, 9 months old. He's been very independent. But he came into those dogs, and I thought, well, worst case scenario, I'll tree for 25 and get my 25 circle, be a hole, and I'll go about my way. Well, we go in there, and they were digging the wrong creature up when we got in there. So my trip was pretty short and sweet, kind of like yours.
Well, I had a great time up there. I hunted Thursday night, pleasure hunted Thursday night, and pleasure hunted Saturday night. So I didn't do what I wanted to do in the hunt, but man, we had such a good time up there hunting. The guy that carried me hunting, he asked me, he says, can you cast your dog across this cornfield? And I'm looking over there, and you can see the trees, and they're 200 or 300 yards away. And I said, yeah, I can cast him. I said, if you wanted to, he'll go wherever he's got to go. I'm not worried. He said, well, I was just wondering. I didn't know, you're from Georgia, and y'all may not do it this way. I said, oh, no, we don't do it this way. But I believe if he thought there was a coon on the moon, he'd try to go get it. We cast them, and boy, I tell you, that was some fun times.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
I don't get to see that. I don't get to see that many coons in a night.
Sure.
Most of the time.
Yeah, that's some great hunting around there. It's really. I thought it was a great place to have that final. Most of the cast people that were in other casts that I talked to, they said, oh yeah, we seen 3, 4, 5 coon. My cast ended up being one of the only dead casts because of course 3 of us were scratched right off, but the 4th dog, he did tree a coon, but he made 2 slick trees too, so he minused out. That's the only bad thing about being the only dog. You're getting the big ends on everything your dog does, good and bad.
Yep. Well, my cast was, we had a cast winner. I think he had 25 points at the end. 2 of us went out on the possum, and there was another dog on that cast. I think she was a little older, and I don't know how far she had to come, but she just didn't seem like she was too into it too much about going hunting. She finally did go hunting, but like I said, I left right after. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I knew the judge that we had, and I wasn't worried at all about any kind of shenanigans on that cast. And I told Irv, my buddy, I said, let's go get something to eat. It's 10 o'clock and I'm hungry again.
Yeah.
And so we went and found us a hamburger.
No, I don't blame you there.
I thought it was an awesome event. And I got my fingers crossed that I'm lucky enough to get into it again. Hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope you do. I'd love to see it.
There's going to be a lot more dogs at the regions this year.
Yeah. It looks
There's
like
going to be a lot more competition for us this year. I thought it was pretty stiff last year.
It was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my first night out there at the zones, it was. I just got out dogged. I drew like a 6-year-old Walker male from, I believe he was from West Virginia, but we cut loose and I shut him out on the first drop. Sounded like all 4 dogs treed with mine. Well, when we got in there, one was split and the other 3 were in a tree, and they were in a 10-foot tall snag that was broke off, and they were barking down the bottom of the hole. I thought, man, this is a tough break, because I heard mine run it. I mean, I heard him scream and come on it right. I figured he had a coon, and I stuck my phone in there just, even though it couldn't be scored. I just wanted to know. I stuck my phone in there and flipped it over on video real fast while I was getting him out there. The coon was about 2 foot above his head. So, of course, in UKC, you're not allowed to use anything like that, phones or mirrors. Or I just had to grit my teeth and take my circle points and go on. And then that other older dog, he ended up treeing 3 coons in that block, and I think he ended up with 500. He didn't end up getting through. I hated to see that because he was a nice dog. My zone, it took several hundred plus single night cast score to get through. The first night it was pretty cold. It was it was like 30 degrees that Friday night. When in Saturday it warmed up to about 45. Coon were really moving. I had a phenomenal cast with 3 really good people, and Saturday night, and we treat a pile of coon. I think I believe we ended up scoring on 10 coon Saturday night, and we just had a great cast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was 10. I've scored 11 coon in my life.
Unbelievable. For me, for a guy like me.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah, somebody says 10 coon, and there were no feeder. There were no feeders or feeder buckets involved. It was all legit. It was 10 coon. Dogs were split most of the cast. They'd be split 40, 50, 60 yards apart, Really, it was really a good cast. I had a gentleman in the cast called me the next week after it was in that cast, he and one of the females that I drew, and he ended up calling me, and he told me, he said, hey, you got any pups out of that dog? He said, I'd really like to get one lined up. And I said, no, unfortunately, we don't have any at this time. He ended up calling me a few weeks later. His female came in heat, and he came and bred her to Kraken. So I was, it's amazing the people you meet, and it's good to see a dog operate firsthand. So I'm a big believer in that, seeing a dog for yourself and
Absolutely.
seeing if you like what you see. That's where good crosses are made, when people see it with their own eyes. And
we are proud to have Conkey's Outdoors as a sponsor of CHU Podcast. Conkey's is your complete hunting and hound supply store. They carry brands like Garmin, Daltra, Dan's, and even Summit tree stands, and much, much more. Whether you're in the market for a new thermal or a new hunting rifle, Conkey's has it all. They even offer financing options. Being a family-run business with customer service that's second to none, it's no wonder why Conkey's is the best in the business. So go check them out at conkeys.outdoors.com or find them on Facebook at Conkey's Outdoors.
I don't think we do enough of that, to be quite honest with you. And I don't care what flavor dog you have. We need to get out and visit. I've always said that the coonhound world is a lot like my real life job. The business that we're in, man, it's not all about the dogs. Of course, it's got a lot to do with it, but this is a people deal, and getting along with your fellow hunters. And I would encourage anybody. I mean, if you see something you like, do your best. If you think it's going to improve you, just get some of it if you can. And
sure.
I think that's the way we ought to approach it. I get a little bit, I'm guilty of getting a little bit barn blind. I kind of breed pretty close to the vest just because I don't get out and see a lot of dogs, and I want to hunt with the dogs. And, so if you look in my pedigrees at my place on those, I could go back and say, well, I own this one or this one and this one. I've hunted with this one and this one and this one and this one and this one. And I can just about tell you a story and map out that pedigree of the dogs, because I've either had them on the end of my chain in my kennel, or, I've been in the woods with them. And so that's just how I am. I don't fault anybody for not, if a dog's, been proven to put them on the ground, by all means, if you don't have a chance to hunt with it, and, if you think that's the hound for you, then get some of it. But,
Right.
For me, I should have been born in Missouri, I guess, because you got to show me. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah,
tell
3 or
me
4.
again how you and Grant got hooked up.
Yeah. So out of the blue, I first got a call from Grant about 3 or 4 years ago. My phone goes off and caller ID comes up and the number says Utah on my phone. And I thought, well, this has got to be a telemarketer. I'm definitely not answering this. If it's important, they'll leave me a message. Well, about 10 minutes goes by and I check my phone again and I got a voicemail and it's from Grant. He says, hey, my name is Grant Whitmer and I, wanted to talk to you a little bit about Main Street Blue and if you could just give me a call back. So I thought, well, I don't know what in the world I'm going to waste hours of my time for calling somebody from Utah wanting to talk about coon dogs, because I didn't even think anybody coon hunted in Utah. But come to find out, I guess they do have a couple UKC clubs in Utah. Who would have thought it? So yeah. Anyway, I called Grant back and I ended up talking probably way longer than I should have, probably about 2 hours on the phone with him, talking about Main Street Blue and a couple of the other dogs I'd had out of that line. And when I hung up, my wife asked me who I was just talking to. And I told her, I said, oh, just some guy from Utah. And she always gets a kick out of me. She says, how in the world could you sit there and talk to somebody that you've never met for hours about dogs? And I said, well, hey, it's easy to do when you start talking about these dogs. But I did think to myself, well, I probably just wasted, 2 hours of my life I'll never get back for a guy I'll never meet. You talk to so many people in this sport, especially when you're trying to push a stud dog. I'm sure you can relate. You get a lot of calls and a lot of messages, and most of them don't go anywhere. But this one did end up turning into something. But he had told me, he said, well, I'd love to come up and see him go. Would you take me hunting with him? And I said, well, yeah, absolutely. And I thought, yeah, right. This guy's never going to come go hunting. Well, after we got done talking, a few weeks goes by and my phone goes off and he texts me and says, hey, how's next Wednesday sound? Could I stop by next Wednesday? If we could hunt? And I said, well, sure. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe this guy really is going to come. Well, that Tuesday before, he messaged me and said, hey, I'll be there by dark tomorrow night. So that Wednesday came and old Grant pulls in. We hunted. We just cut Blue loose by himself, and I think he treed like 8 or 10 coon in like an hour and a half along this cornfield. And at that time, the coons were really sitting up around the corn, and that's when he really looked great. And he asked me. He said, "Man," he said, I had heard a lot of people that had said that this is the way this dog operates. And he said, does he do this consistently? And I said, well, that's what he's supposed to do. But, I wouldn't swear by it every night, but most of the time he did look pretty good. But anyway, so that's how me and Grant actually met. So he ended up buying part of Main Street Blue about a year and a half later. He ended up becoming a part owner on him. So yeah, that's how me and Grant got hooked up, and then that's how we own Kraken together as well out of him.
Okay, well, I don't want to touch on anything you don't really care to talk about, but you lost Blue early on.
Yeah.
I don't know the story behind that. And if you feel comfortable with it, if you don't mind sharing it with us, I know it's a sad deal, but
it is. Yeah, he was only 6 years old. It was actually about a year ago to the date. Grant had him. He had him. He took Kraken's brother Brody, and they were all headed out to the Grand American last year. They wanted to pleasure hunt Blue he was delivering a couple pups to a guy out in Oklahoma. He wanted to pleasure hunt before going to the Grand American. So I believe it was Monday night. He had picked him up from my house on Monday, and they turned Blue loose Monday night there in Oklahoma. Said he'd gotten a hole or something, and they loaded him back up, and they let Kraken and Brody out, and they treated Coon, and they loaded them back up, and they started on down the road. They drove for 3 or 4 hours and went to get the dogs out to let them go to the bathroom, and they said Blue was just laying there, just stone cold still, just dead. So really not 100% sure what caused it, but they think that he got into some kind of poison or something is what they're thinking. Yeah, it was pretty unfortunate. Not too many dogs come around like him. That's probably one of the best dogs that I'll ever cut loose. They don't all live forever. That's the unfortunate thing about dogs. Those years go by fast.
Yeah, they do. And I tell you, mine they get old quick, especially the good ones. The ones that you enjoy, they're never ever around long enough. And it seems like the ones you don't like, you can't get rid of them.
Right.
Well,
the good ones get old. They do. They get old fast, and I do love to see people. When they lose an older dog that's 13, 14. I think to myself, man, you're lucky if you get one to live that long. To be honest with you, it's because they definitely don't. Especially these dogs that are competition hunted hard. They have a lot more risks. A lot more risks involved with dogs that are, because we're going to strange places, strange guides, strange places. We're really kind of at the mercy of wherever people take us, and you really don't have a whole lot of choices other than to turn them loose and hope for the best.
Yeah, you bet. I'm one of the lucky ones. The old girl that kind of started my English kennel, I still have her. She's 14.
Nice.
She's retired, obviously, but sure. She gets to live in the house. I bring her in when it's cold. I bring her in when it's hot. She's kind of spoiled now. She was one that kind of got me fired up about breeding English hounds. I bred blue ticks for years, and then I love them. I love my blue ticks, but I got a hold of her, and I had some what I thought were really nice blue ticks, and put the paws on coon hunting. We bought our family farm, and when I started back, I got a hold of her, and she did everything those blue ticks did, except she did it faster. She did it more stylishly, and man, she could put a coon in a tree in a hurry. And I really like that about her. And that's what got me fired up about breeding English dogs. And then my 2 males fell in my lap. When I started back hunting, I told 2 or 3 of my really close hunting friends that I said, I've been out for a little while, and I had a stud dog when I had blue ticks, and I was like, I'm really not interested in trying to promote a stud dog anymore. And JJ and Major both fell in my lap, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this, but I don't want to have to hunt against these rascals either. So,
right.
So I bought them, and the rest is history. Right now I'm hunting a female off of my Major dog, and he just turned 8 this summer, and I've got 2 Grand Night females in my kennel off of him, and I got a litter of puppies. I've got 1 male left out of a cross of, this is the 3rd time I've made it, and I'm actually about to start hunting grand puppies off of both of those dogs. And
that's excellent.
I've never been one to buy many dogs, but when JJ and Major came around, I had to let go of the pocketbook a little bit and get them. Yeah,
I don't blame you. It's hard to come across good young dogs that people don't want quite a bit for, and I understand both sides of it. I'm no puppy man. I'm not great with pups. I kind of consider myself pretty good at getting one going. I like to get one ready for the competition hunts. I like to put my time into one. I'm pretty good at getting one to kind of focus on what it needs to do to get ready for a hunt. But I'm not very good at starting just green puppies. I'm not a very patient man when it comes to puppies, but I do man, I do respect the heck out of people, because I know, hey, they all got to get started somewhere. Somebody's got to put the time into them when they're, just little immature puppies.
Yeah. What's some of your goals for the upcoming year for you and Kraken?
Yeah, sure. So, we're starting to breed him some. So we're kind of trying to let some of these puppies get a little age on them. And we're getting some pretty good reports back from some people that have pups off of his first couple litters, but his oldest pups are 9 months old. They're still babies, but we haven't got official word yet, but I guess there's one in Kentucky out of him that just finished a night champion. So we're pretty excited about that, because she was only 6 months old and is already titled. So we're waiting on confirmation from UKC, but yeah, it's pretty incredible. That litter started really young, and there's like 5 of them in the litter that are all running and treeing their own coon. So that's quite a feat. So anyway, we're excited about that, but we got qualified for a lot of hunts this, coming up in the next year, like the PKC truck hunt in Mississippi. So we're going to try to get ready for that in the spring, and Tournament of Champions, the zones. So I'm fortunate because the zone is only about 10 minutes from my house. So that's kind of a big deal
hey,
for
it's
my
about 15
home.
for mine.
Yeah, excellent. That's makes it so much nicer. I feel bad for the people that have to drive far, but at the same time, I'm happy that it is here. It's my home club. Morrow County Coon Hunters is actually hosting the zone, one of the zones anyway. But yeah, we're looking forward to that hunt, and I think I need about 5 more cast ones on Kraken to have his 50 for UKC. I'm going to try to get that done here in the next couple months before he turns 3. Just kind of a personal goal. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're looking forward to keep pushing him in some hunts this next year and see what happens.
Well, I did talk to Alan Gingrich at the finals last year, and unless he's changed his mind, I am happy to report that he has no intention of moving these things around a whole lot. So,
yeah, well, that's great.
I'm excited about that. I'm not afraid to admit this and let everybody know. I'm not climbing hills and hunting coons in the mountains. I'm not able.
Yeah.
I don't like swimming around in the swamp. So fortunate to live where I live and hunt where I hunt, where generally the deepest water that I get in might be knee deep.
I just strive to do it. I know some people prefer one kennel club over the other, but me personally, I like both. I like what both have to offer. I just like competing in both. It's not really just about trophies or just about money to me. It's just, I just like it. You show me a competition coon hunt, and I don't care what it entails. I just like to compete.
Yep. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And both of the main kennel clubs for hounds, they've really gone all out in the last few years. I don't hunt a lot of PKC. It's been years since I've participated in that. I keep my membership up to date, but sure. There's just where I live, actually in the 90s, man, it was a PKC hunt every night somewhere within an hour drive. And nowadays I got to go an hour and a half north or hour and a half south to find one. I mean, South Georgia's littered with them. Around here, we just kind of let it go away. And I hate that. But at the same time, I think the guys my age that were doing it either they no longer hunt or they got jobs.
Right.
and I know if I was to get involved with a state race, I'd be at it every night I could go turn a dog loose. And I don't want to put that kind of commitment to it, because I just love to go coon hunting.
Sure.
I can take the competition or leave it, and I enjoy the competition, but man, it's just nothing like going out there and turning the dog loose and listening to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love to hear a dog open trail coon and come treat with one at the end. Doesn't matter particularly the breed to me. I prefer English dogs just because that's what I've been around my whole life. But I like to see a good dog in any breed go.
Oh yeah, I like to see a good one, and I don't mind getting beat by a good one either. Everybody likes to win, but if you're honest with yourself and you've done it a while, you're going to lose more than you'll win. as long as it's right and as long as I get out dogged, I'm just as happy either way. I mean, I just like to see good dogs work.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, unless you got anything else, I think we've shined this tree pretty good. You know, I want to say I really appreciate you coming on and agreeing to do this podcast with me. And, you know, this is the first one I've gotten to do. And I look forward to getting in the woods with you sometime, Trevor.
I really hope y'all enjoyed that interview as much as I did. If you like what you heard here, go on over to Facebook, give us a like at Coon Hunting U. Also, go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and a review. It really helps us out. And remember, if you need a new hunting light, do not overlook Superior. They make an awesome light, best customer service in the business. Man, their walking light and double red is the brightest I've ever seen. Use coupon code CHU podcast at checkout at nighthunters.com. You can find the link in the description box below this. Coon Hunting University is a product of Audio Hound Productions. Until next time, y'all have a wonderful day.